Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Ishan Mahajan, and welcome you all to this demo of SAP Materials Management. So we will cover these below mentioned topics in this demo. So I'll start with the introduction of SAP. What is SAP? Then I'll continue with how good is SAP as a career option. Then I'll start with modules of SAP. So how many modules are there in SAP? Then I'll continue with uh, who is the SAP consultant and what are the functions of an SAP consultant. So to start with, what is SAP? SAP is an ERP, which stands for System Applications and Products in Data Processing, which was founded way back in 1970s. So SAP is fourth largest company in the world, after Google, Apple, Microsoft. Um, and SAP is one of the largest ERP solutions. So there are multiple competitors of SAP, such as Oracle, such as Salesforce, but no has been able to come as close to SAP because of a lot of features that SAP gives. So because of being so old, right? So SAP in these years has developed his ERP solution into a very advanced way, that no other ERP have done it yet. So currently, there are two kind of SAP systems which companies really use. So the first one, the first version is the SAP R3 system, which is also known as SAP ECC system. Okay. So a lot of companies are still in this old version of SAP ECC system, whereas S4 HANA is the latest ERP solution which SAP is offering. To coming to the functionality, most of the functionality is all is similar, but obviously S4 HANA is an intelligent ERP solution which comes with a lot of intelligent solutions and also a lot of analytical solutions. It comes up with which which were not available in SAP E3 systems. Um, so what is SAP? So define, to explain it in a very simple way, every organization, every, big company or, medium scale company need a solution, an end-to-end solution for all their problems, such as finance, logistics, procurement, sales, warehouse, supply chains, and, many more, right? To solve this program, SAP ERP is the solution to it. Okay, so it is an integrated solution, which has information in a central database and which is being used by all the functions, such as the same database, the same information is being used by the procurement, the same information is being used by the supply chain, the same information is being used by the HR and all the other departments as well, right? So that's the beauty of um, SAP. It's so central and its information is being sent out and being used by all the other modules. So it is so tightly integrated that we will get a real-time information for all the processes. Okay, so now coming to the next slide. Uh, so now it is a very common question that I face, and that a lot of students ask me that, sir, how good is SAP as a career? I mean, should I'm a IT, and a I have done BTech in CSC, I have done BTech in IT, I have done BCA, MCA, I have done BSc in IT, in finance, in I have done MBA in supply chain. So is SAP a good career for me? Um, so to answer that, I'll say yes. SAP is a very good option, for for the graduate students, and and who want to start their career because of lot of things. So the first thing being, so the first question again, comes up in our mind is that are there enough jobs in the SAP industry? So the answer is yes. So there are a lot of so anyone, if you will Google right now on Naukri, on Shine, or LinkedIn, on Google, that SAP careers or SAP jobs. Okay, so you will find that there are lakhs of jobs available currently, even right now, right? So what it basically tells is that the jobs are in abundance. Okay, so that means in the coming time as well, um, industries need a lot of industries will came into the picture, right? A lot of industries will upgrade their SAP systems, so there is a need of SAP consultants in abundance, right? So if you have the right information, if you have the right knowledge, definitely SAP is a good to go career to start with. um, so another thing that I want to highlight is that SAP jobs, it is being hired by all the great MNCs, right? So you name it, and that MNC is working and hiring SAP consultants, right? So Accenture, Infosys, Wipro, Cognizant, L&T, Google, Microsoft, Apple, there are all other consultancies as well, like TCS. A lot of them are there which are hiring SAP consultants. So that means, so there is abundance of jobs that are available for SAP consultants. Um, okay. So now coming to the next thing, a lot of questions is also being thrown at me, that uh, am I supposed to do coding in an SAP, since it's looks like a technical thing? So the answer is yes and no. Okay. So first of all, everyone should understand that SAP is an ocean. Okay. So you see SAP, as an ocean which has a lot of components. Okay. So you cannot cover all the components. So you have to start with one of the components. Okay. So there are two kind of modules in SAP. Uh, First is the functional, and the second one is the technical. Okay. So the modules which comes under the functional are MM, SD, PP, PS, FI. Okay. So all these supply chains, manufacturing, finance and costing, all these functions and modules comes under the functional consultant. Okay. So they are, why these are categorized functional? It is because no coding is involved in them. So functional guys are not responsible for the coding part. In the last slide, I'll also help you guys to understand what are the roles and responsibilities of a SAP consultant. Um, but just to wrap up right now in a summary, um, the technical consultants are the ones which is responsible either for some technical part, right? So the ABAP team is the one which is responsible for coding, and either for bug fixes, or either for new developments, whereas we also have a basis team, which helps in the integration, which helps in the system and landscape setups. So these are called the technical teams. So yeah, so that is the basically the difference between the functional and the technical team. Okay. So now there are multiple modules in SAP, which is being used by the companies all over the world. Um, so I'll explain you with a very with a layman example. So let's assume, so there are a lot of in our body, there are lot of organs, right? So some are major, and some it is not that important, right? So that means, yeah, so the functioning is important obviously, but yeah, but if we will see, every we consider our hands, our mouth, our neck, like our heart, our brain, these are the main components. So similarly, um, to function SAP, so there are some modules with which a SAP project cannot be started. Okay. So the core modules of the SAP being, so the first one is SAP Materials Management, which is the sourcing and procurement functions. The second one being the SAP SD, which deals in sales, O2C cycles, order to cash processes. The third one being the SAP Finance. Obviously, finance is must in a uh, in a business process. So finance, it is also one of the core modules. Then again the technical module comes in the picture, ABAP, right? So all the developments and everything that will happen in the um, in our ABAP, in our technical language. So ABAP is a programming language on which SAP technical consultants builds the new things. So either a new smart form, either a new report. There could be a lot of things that can be developed through ABAP programming. And yeah, so these are the modules which are called the core modules of the SAP. So there are also a lot of other modules, like I have mentioned SAP warehouse management. So some people might use these functionalities and some might not. Okay. There are other modules such as SAP PS, which is called SAP project system. Some people might use it, some people not, right? So there is a module which is called SAP PP, which is the production planning. SAP QM, quality management. So there are multiple modules available in the SAP. So depending upon your interest, a lot of people choose the modules according to that, right? Um, so I am a SAP Materials Management Consultant. Again, to give the introduction, so I have total more than 5 years of experience. I have worked in organizations such as Accenture and KPMG. Um, and I have worked in multiple locations all over India. I have worked in Delhi NCR region. I have worked in Haryana region. I have worked in Mumbai region. I have worked in Pune region. So depends upon the requirement. A SAP functional consultant might have to go to the client premises or the offices, depending upon a lot of things. Okay, so let's jump to more detail in SAP MM. So as you all know, this is a demo for SAP Materials Management. So I'll try to explain the SAP P2P cycle, which is the most important cycle in materials management. So P2P stands for procure to payment. Okay. Um, so I'll also explain you guys with an example so that it can be understood properly. So the first requirement is identification of needs. We have to know that there is a requirement and there is a shortage of raw material, or some packaging or anything. There is shortage of something which we need to buy so that we can manufacture something, right? Let's take an example of a plastic bottle manufacturer which needs to manufacture water bottles. So for that he needs raw materials such as a water bottle which is not filled. Along with that he needs bottle caps. He needs the packaging such as corrugated boxes, the plastic packaging that comes in for the branding and labeling, and yeah, a lot of other things which could be there. So let's assume a company needs thousand of bottles of these. So they identify they needed to manufacture 1,000 bottles. So for that, first they need to identify the suppliers. Okay, so let's assume Bisleri has 10 suppliers for bottles, 15 suppliers for bottle caps, and 12 suppliers for plastics, branding and labeling and packaging thing. Uh, so after they have identified their suppliers, the second step to that is they have to filter out that whom they should go for. So after they identify all the 10, so what the Bisleri buyer team will do is they will send the request for quotations and RFP things to the buyer, to the seller, saying that we need things, and in return the seller will quote them a price. Okay. So let's assume one buyer quote them 1 rupees, other buy 1 rupees 10 paisa, other buy 90 paisa. So depending upon their requirement, they will choose a single supplier or multiple suppliers depending upon their requirement. Okay. Um, After the supplier selection is done, they have to create the purchase order. So purchase order is a legal document that we will send to vendor. Okay. So it has a legal value. So that means if I'm sending a purchase order, saying that okay, I'm going to buy 1,000 quantities or with 1 rupee amount, so that has some legal value in all the all over the global, all over the world, sorry. um, so once the purchase order is created, our next step is that we will send the same to the supplier, and we will have some order tracking that similar to how we track our orders to the Amazon. We will ask the vendors that when they are going to supply the plastic bottles, okay, because every company has a deadline to follow. So after that, the goods receipt thing will come into picture. That when the company will receive the plastic bottles, they will make an entry that okay, they have received 1,000 bottles, they have received 500 bottles, they have received 100 bottles. So whatsoever amount, um, they will note it down through the goods receipt process. After that, they have to do the invoicing. Invoicing, billing, they have to do so that they can perform the payment. They can give the payment to the suppliers for the amount they have for the plastic bottles they have sent. Okay, so this is a normal procurement to payment process. How to which looks like similar to this, right? So there are a lot of nitty-gritties which we will cover when we will go in depth in the course curriculum. Yeah. So this is again just to define SAP materials management in a very brief manner. So SAP MM is one of the core modules which deals in sourcing, procurement, and inventory functions. So it deals with the sourcing, procurement, and the supply chain function so that the whole supply chain could perform properly. So this particular picture is describing the components of the SAP MM which we have to study in very detail. So the first one being the purchasing. Okay, so the purchasing. So the purchase. So a lot of things comes into the purchasing, such as the how to create the RFQs, how to create the purchase orders, purchase requisitions, contracts, scheduling agreements. A lot of things are there. Invoices. Okay, so this is what comes into the purchasing part. The second part being the master data. Obviously, we need to create a lot of master data such as material master, vendor master, source list, purchase info record, to keep going. There are other components such as inventory, which deals with the inventory part, such as how to manage the inventory, how to manage the physical inventory components, the inventory management reports, a lot of other things. And obviously, the last but not the least, material resource planning is a consumption-based planning. So it is an intelligent process of knowing on the base of consumption to order automatically purchase requisitions so that our supply chain process should work smoothly. So this is all about in brief about SAP materials management module. Um, so when we will cover our whole syllabus, it will have the components from these four areas, but in a very detailed manner. Um, Now, the last slide, which will cover the role of a SAP MM consultant. Uh, so this is a common question which comes to my way on what is the role of a SME MM consultant? Like, what do we do? Do we, are we responsible for the coding? Are we responsible for, other parts? What we have to exactly do? Okay. So as a MM consultant, so there are a lot of functions that you have to play. Depending upon depending upon whether we are going into an implementation project, we are into a support project, we are into a conversion project, we are into a rollout project. So it totally depends upon the kind of projects that we handle, but the basic remains the same. um, so if I'll say in brief, as a SAP MM consultant, we have to start with the requirement gathering and understanding the client's processes, okay, so that we can map it accordingly into our SAP ERP. After that, we have to do the configuration of those those requirements. So whatever we understood from the client, we have to map the same into the SAP, so that when the client will perform their activities, they will get the exact same settings that they have requested for. There are a lot of customizing that clients request for. Either they want a customized report, either they want some validations, either they want some smart forms, some PDF printouts, some purchase order formats that they need for themselves. So that's our responsibility to create the functional design for them. And after that, we are also responsible for training and knowledge transfer of to of SAP MM to the clients, right? So once, let's suppose, in an implementation project, you also have to guide the users, that how to maybe create a purchase order, how to create a PR, right? So that also comes into our responsibilities. In a support projects, after that, there could be a lot of activities, like if they are getting there are a lot of bug fixes. There could be lot of new requirements that may come in. If you are a SAP MM consultant, that a client might needs new requirements. So you have to, as a SAP MM consultant, we have to support our client in day-to-day activities. To conclude it, I'll just explain some of the project types that we do have in SAP. So the first one being is the implementation project, and we have to build the SAP. Configure the SAP as per the client from scratch to the end. Okay. So um, the second one being the rollout project. So the rollout project is that SAP is already in place with one of the clients, but now he want to extend his SAP to a different plants, to a different regions, to a different countries. So that is called a rollout project. A support project is where no new plant is being, but we have to support the client in our day-to-day activities. That is called the support projects. And the conversion projects. So conversion projects comes into the picture. So when we have to convert our older systems, so for example from ECC, when we have to convert to S4, that is called the S4 the conversion projects. So these are the four major type of projects that as a SAP MM consultant we have to handle. So during the course curriculum, we will handle we will discuss about all of these in very detail, along with the whole SAP MM curriculum. Thank you so much, everyone. And if you have any queries, you can reach out to us anytime. Thank you so much.